You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey there, General Hospital fans. It's Soap Dirt on YouTube. We want to talk about why it is the perfect time for General Hospital to bring back Nikolas Cassadine. They need to resurrect and redeem this guy. And we are seeing some signs, 5 signs, that we think Nick's comeback is in the works on GH. We want to lay these out for you. We'd love to hear your comments. We want to know what you think about this. But first, if you've not already, reach down, click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our General Hospital updates, spoilers, special videos like this. All right, now let's talk about this, and we're also going to talk about the status of the actors who have played the role, because there was a big change recently, and we're very interested to talk about that because, of course, the availability of the actors who have played him in the past could determine the future unless they're going to recast the role, and we're going to talk about all that. All right, 5 signs that a Nikolas comeback is in the works, and we are very excited. All right, first of all, Nikolas Cassadine was a very hot topic of conversation at Victor Cassadine's will reading. They didn't have to mention Nikolas, or they could have mentioned him briefly and then brushed it aside, but they didn't. They made a whole bunch of noise about it. Part of that was to make Ava Jerome uncomfortable because, of course, she knows that Nick is not on this property in Chechnya where Laura Spencer hopes she might find her son, but he was just an ongoing topic of conversation. Why would they keep name dropping Nikolas if they're not going to bring him back? It doesn't make any sense. And he's not just name dropped at this will reading. We're going to talk about another big name drop in just a second, and that is about Mason Gatlin. Mason Gatlin is the creepy bald-headed dude who is Austin Gatlin-Holt's creepy cousin. And it's Mason who actually has a hold of Nikolas right now. Nikolas is in a coma after Ava bashed him in the head, and I have to say deservedly so, because he threatened her daughter Avery. So he kind of deserved that noggin cracking. She thought she killed him. She and Austin had stashed the body because there was a lot of activity and police around at Windermere around the time, because Esme Prince broke out of captivity where Nikolas was keeping her. But right now, Mason scooped up his body and is keeping him on ice. Nikolas is very much alive, but in a coma. And because Mason has him, we presume locally, they can bring him back at any time. They can wake him up in a moment. So yet another sign that we're going to be getting Nikolas back. The third thing is that Nikolas has a son that he needs to meet, and that is baby Ace Cassadine. And also, the Cassadine clan needs a patriarch of sorts. The oldest right now on scene is Valentine Cassadine, but he's not feeling very Cassadine-esque lately. He is tormented about the recent appearance in his hallucinations of his awful mom, Helena Cassadine, and of course, his dear daddy, Victor Cassadine, just tried to kill off 80% of the world's population. So maybe Nikolas is the Cassadine patriarch that the family needs. Very soon we expect to see, unless something changes, Laura, Spencer, and Valentine heading off to Chechnya, which is in this corner of Russia by the Caspian Sea. So we suspect they might find another Cassadine there, but it's definitely not going to be Nikolas, because we have to assume that Mason is keeping him in Pawtuck, which is his and Austin's hometown, and where Mason's name to be determined female boss lives and works, as far as we know. We still don't know who Mason is working for. I suspect that's because the writers haven't decided yet, or they have decided on 3 different people and haven't worked it out yet. It feels like a lot on General Hospital. If you've been watching the show for a long time, you've probably noticed this, where they start things out like a serial killer plotline, like with the Hook killer, where it doesn't make sense that Heather was the killer the whole time. Like everything doesn't quite align, and it's like, oh, maybe they had this person in mind, and then they decided, oh, we're going to change it to Heather. The same kind of thing happened with the General Hospital Strangler, where they had DA Paul Hornsby as the killer. And that didn't align to the known facts. He had known and visible alibis for a couple of the killings, but they had decided that Paul was going to be the perpetrator. This is something that GH has pulled many times over the year. If you're a longtime watcher and they finally reveal something, you're like, that doesn't quite make sense. And it's because they changed their horse midstream. And that's very frustrating about inconsistencies in the GH writer room. So that could be what they do with Mason and Austin's lady boss. And she presumably is the one who determines Nikolas's fate right now. And there are threats about that because Mason wants Ava to do something with her former mob contacts for his boss. And so Nikolas is their leverage. So that's another reason that we think he might be back at some point soon. Number 4, let's talk about this. A resurrection of Nikolas is a chance at redemption. And I'm using the word resurrection. He's not dead, but he is comatose, so he might as well be. So this is his chance to be redeemed. He could come out of this coma with a clean slate, a new mindset, heck, even a little bit of amnesia, or maybe no recollection of what he had done to Esme or his past couple of years when he turned into a real piece of crap. Because I would personally like to see a return to the kindler, gentler Prince Nikolas of the past, the one who wasn't your typical Cassadine, the one who wanted to be different and better. And instead, we have seen him right before he wound up in this coma to be the very worst of his Cassadine nature. And wouldn't it be nice to have sweet Nick of the past back in our hands? The 5th thing that we're thinking about in terms of a Nikolas comeback is that Liz Weber is pretty single right now, and it would be really fun to see them reunited. I always really liked Liz with Nikolas, and we're not going to get her with Jason because he's gone and she needs a love interest. She and Finn have either fizzled out or they've been completely backburnered. They had basically broken up over her fib that Nikolas had gotten her pregnant because she was trying to cover up for being out at Windermere giving Esme prenatal care. So I, for one, would love to see Nick back and in a romance with Liz. But if we are going to bring Nikolas back, then the question is, who is going to play him? And there's some actor updates that we want to talk about. But first, if you've not already, reach down, click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our General Hospital updates, spoilers, casting news, everything good. So if you didn't know this, Tyler Christopher was just arrested. He was the one who originated the role as a teen, and he had been doing well. He was fired from GH, and he admitted that was for some of his alcohol issues. And then he got the role of Stephen Cassadine over at Days of Our Lives. But not Stephen Cassadine, Stephen DeMera. And he was fired from Days also because of his alcohol issues. And he talked about how he was the one who cost himself these opportunities. And he had been getting new work, and he seemed to be clean and sober. And then he was arrested at the Burbank airport. He was described by police as seeming to be obviously intoxicated, and he had laid down on the ground in front of the American Airlines counter and was taking a nap after he missed his flight, but police thought he was publicly drunk and arrested him and charged him with that and turned around and released him on bail immediately for the paltry sum of $250. So it doesn't seem likely that Tyler would be rehired since he has now had a backslide in his sobriety. What about Marcus Coloma? Is he out for good? There was scuttlebutt at the time of his exit that he was not cooperating and was refusing to film his final scenes, one of which included Nick in a coma being held by Mason. But Marcus Coloma's rep said that it wasn't true. He was just having some complications due to a recent COVID infection, and he just could not be on set to film those final scenes. I enjoyed Marcus Coloma as a recast. I would love to see him back. I don't know if that'll happen. If he really did refuse to film those final scenes, and of course we don't know because the network hasn't said anything and his rep denied it, but that wouldn't bode well. So what about the other two guys? So Nick Stabile had stepped in for 14 episodes when Tyler Christopher was canned, and that was back in 2016. And he was a cutie, and he had good chemistry with Ava at the time. And he, a couple of years ago, was retweeting fan comments when people were saying they would love to see him back as Nikolas. So Nick Stabile might be an option. There's also the person who played him last when Prince Nicholas was in his coma with Mason, and that was Adam Huss. He has done a total of, they list him as having done 18 episodes, but he didn't really. I think he did about 16. He had stepped in as a recast before and then stepped in again to cover for Marcus Coloma in these last few episodes. His IMDb lists him as showing up on March 9th and 15th, 2023, but those episodes he wasn't on. He was just name dropped. His last episode was March 1st of 2023. So maybe Adam Huss will take the role. Maybe Nick will take the role. A lot of people would love to have Marcus back. There are definitely options, but it doesn't seem like Tyler Christopher is one of those. Share your comments below on what you'd like to see for Nikolas Cassadine and if you would enjoy seeing him back on GH.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.